Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through my 2025 NHL playoff predictions and giving you my picks and why I think certain teams are going to go all the way and who I have winning the Cup in 2025. We'll jump right into it with our first matchup. Starting over in the Western Conference, we've got the Winnipeg Jets against the St. Louis Blues. The Winnipeg Jets, President's Trophy winners. They were the best team in the NHL during the regular season, but they run into an interesting matchup with the St. Louis Blues, who were the hottest team in the league heading into the postseason, but have recently run into a bit of a dry spell as of late, sort of balancing out after their big franchise record 12-game winning streak, which actually was ended by the Jets the last time these two teams played. For me, I have the Jets winning this series in 5. I think St. Louis can put up a fight, but I really just don't trust that roster. I think it's solid enough, but the Jets all around are just a better, well-built team. And obviously the biggest question mark is Connor Hellebuyck. He has had up and down playoff performances in the past, so betting on him can be a little scary at times in the playoffs. But when he's on, he's on, and the Jets makes the Jets a very tough team to beat. So if you're getting the Connor Hellebuyck we've seen for the majority of this season in this series, the Jets should have no issue outscoring whatever the Blues can put up on the board and winning this series. If Hellebuyck falters, things could start to look bad for the Jets, but I don't think the Blues have enough firepower to make him falter. The Blues, they only have 3.10 goals per game this season. They're not an elite goal scoring team. They're not really elite at anything, to be totally honest. They're just a team that got hot at the right time and managed to get into the playoffs. And if they were still red hot heading into this series, maybe I'd lean to making this a closer bet. But with the way it's looking, with them kind of falling back a little bit recently, and now that their hot streak is over, and they've lost 3 of their last 5 games, so things aren't exactly all perfect for the Blues. So I'm gonna go with the Jets in 5 because they are just the better team in general. Next up, we head to one of the toughest matchups to predict in the entire playoffs, and that's Colorado-Dallas in round 1. I was going back and forth on this series a lot up until last night when it came out that Jason Robertson left the Stars game last night in a walking boot. And if that's the case, I'm going Colorado in 6. I think there's 2 big factors really for why I have Colorado winning, and they're both injuries. It's Jason Robertson, the fact that he's out, that's a big scoring punch to get a lineup, especially since Mikko Rantanen still hasn't quite found his step in Dallas. I think he will, it's a matter of time, but Jason Robertson's a guy who can score in this system and fits well with your system. So that's the big thing. But Dallas's forward group is incredibly deep, probably the deepest in the entire playoffs. But the bigger issue is Miro Heiskanen's out for at least game 1. And to me, I'm shocked on that game in Colorado. The Dallas Stars decor beyond Miro Heiskanen is not that good, especially on the right side. They've got Thomas Harley, who's looked really solid this year, and Esa Lindell's a great shutdown guy, both on the left side. But that right side right now is Ilya Lyubushkin, Matt Dumba, Cody Ceci. That's not a playoff caliber right side of your decor. And really, I just don't trust that in a 7-game series against a team that is as deep as Colorado. We're talking about how deep Dallas is. Colorado is no slouch. Picking up Charlie Coyle and Brock Nelson at the deadline. They're getting Gabe Landeskog back at some point here. Who knows what Gabe Landeskog you're getting, but it's still an incredibly deep roster with a great decor and in my opinion, 2 of the top 3 players in the world with McKinnon and Makar. So betting against them is tough. They've got goaltending figured out as well with Mackenzie Blackwood. He is a question mark, but I think the injuries are going to catch up to Dallas. So I'm going to take Colorado in 6 games there. Next up, we go to Vegas and Minnesota, and this is a sneaky upset pick, I think. I'm not going with the upset. I do have Vegas winning, but I have them winning in 7. Minnesota has been really, really good as of late because they've gotten Kirill Kaprizov and Joel Eriksson Ek back in their lineup. When those 2 have been healthy this year, or just when Kaprizov has been healthy this year, they're on pace to be a 50-win team. They're a much, much better team when Kaprizov is in the lineup, and he is. Eriksson Ek's playing on an unreal level since he's been back. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't be tough to convince me that Minnesota could take this series, but I am going to go Vegas. They have the playoff pedigree. They have the star power. They have a loaded decor, a reliable goaltender. I think neither one of these teams has like a surefire stud goalie, but I think Aiden Hill is just a little bit more reliable, in my opinion, than Philip Gustafsson in the playoffs. Don't want to bet on a guy who hasn't really been there and done that. And if he goes down, I'm really not trusting Marc-Andre Fleury at this point in his career. But yeah, I think Vegas just has the top tier talent. They have the defensive group. They have the depth. They really should be able to take this series. I'm hedging my bets with it being a 7-game series because I think Minnesota is a red hot team you don't want to run into right now. Next up, another series I've gone back and forth with. I changed my pick like right before recording this. It's LA and Edmonton, the final first round matchup in the Western Conference. And it's so tough. It is really so tough because, to me, this is the best team the Kings have had. It's the 4th year these teams are meeting, 4th year in a row they're meeting. And this is the best team the LA Kings have put together. They have offense, much better offense with the way guys like Quinton Byfield are playing. It's really brought that offense a step up. Their decor is still amazing. Their system is still really good defensively. And now they have a real reliable goaltender, or the most reliable goaltender they've had during these runs in Darcy Kemper. He's better than Cam Talbot and anyone else they've put out for these playoff series against the Oilers. So that's the Kings have put up together their best team. And the Oilers are beat up. The Oilers are really, truly beat up. No Ekholm is such a brutal loss. And Skinner's been really bad this year. I was on the Skinner. I was a Skinner supporter during last year's playoff run. I was in the minority there. I thought he was good enough with the way the roster was built. But he has not been good enough this year. They lost a lot of key pieces this offseason. The players they brought in have not been performing well. And despite all of that, I'm taking Edmonton in 7. It makes no sense, but I can't. I've been going back and forth on it. I had Kings in 7, but betting against McDavid and Draisaitl just feels wrong. Since McDavid's been back in the lineup, he has 10 assists in 4 games since returning from injury. He's ramping up for the playoffs, and I think those two are just going to be playing with that extra fire. They came so close last year that fire is gonna spark something within them. Hopefully all the way to the finals. I would love to see them go on another run. I don't know if this will be the year. The no Ekholm scares me, but if there's a team you can beat without Mattias Ekholm, it's probably the LA Kings, because despite the fact that they are a better offensive team this year than they have been in the past, they're still not elite, and that's sort of been the thing with the Kings is for years they have been built to shut down the Oilers. At a certain point, they have to accept there's no shutting down the Oilers. You have to try and outscore your problems and outscore the Oilers, and the Kings aren't built to do that, even without Ekholm in the lineup. But I could very well see it. But I do have Oilers in 7. Tough pick, though. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, we'll start at the top here with Toronto versus Ottawa, the Battle of Ontario. This is going to be an amazing series. I am super excited to watch these games. And growing up in Ottawa, these matchups just mean a little more. And I'm taking the Sens in 7. It's my upset pick here. Probably the biggest upset I have. I think might be the main upset I have in this first round. I just think the Sens play this team well. They match up super well with the Leafs. I know Berube's applied a more physical style, and Stolarz has been good this year, and they've made some good additions on the back end there for the Leafs. But the Sens are 3-0 against them in the regular season. They've shut that team down offensively. They play a really hard physical game, and that tends to be how the Leafs lose their series. Boston played them really physically last year. They got a little beat up, and they ended up losing that in 7. The Panthers played a super physical style with Tkachuk on that team, and they beat them in 5 the year before. You play the physical style, and you shut down their goal scorers, and things start to fall apart, and they'll lose a lot of 2-1 games. And I think that could be what you're in for in this series. I also think the Sens are going to be playing they play up to the Leafs. They play in those games with an extra sense of pride to try and, they feel like they're the little brother they have been for the past few years through their rebuild. They're trying to change that narrative. And a guy like Brady Tkachuk in the playoffs, so excited to watch what he can do. He was one of, if not the best player for the Estates during the Four Nations. So I'm super hyped to see what he can do in the NHL playoffs. And so I really got to go. I'm trusting my gut in Ottawa. Goaltending is a concern, I think, on both sides. Ullmark doesn't have the best playoff track record. Stolarz has no playoff track record. So I'm going to lean Ullmark. He's the Vezina winner. He's played really well in Ottawa this year. He's been a big change. I think Jake Sanderson's the best defensive player in this series. Sanderson and Zub's the best defensive pair in this series. And I've got faith. Ottawa's got enough. The biggest question mark, I would say, for Ottawa is their playoff experience. But let's be real, the Leafs don't have much playoff experience. They have a lot of first-round exits. That's not a ton of playoff experience. The Sens have done a great job of building a good culture there. Travis Green's gone on a couple runs with the Canucks. Claude Giroux went on a couple runs with the Flyers back in his day. Brought in Nick Cousins. He's Stanley Cup champion. Nick Jensen's a Stanley Cup champion. Mike Amadio is a Stanley Cup champion. I believe he was on that Vegas team, but if not, he's got a couple runs with Vegas. So they've got the playoff pedigree. They have some solid young pieces. They've got a fire under them. I think Dylan Cousins is the guy who's going to play that more physical style. He hasn't played in high stakes hockey in his entire career, so seeing what he can do in that, similar to what got him so hyped up, was playing in high stakes hockey, the juniors, seeing that workhorse from Whitehorse, see if that comes out of him in this high intensity environment. I've got Ottawa in 7, going with the gut. I can't bet on the Leafs in the first round. It's just the way it is. Moving on to another amazing series in the Atlantic Division, we got the Panthers and the Lightning, the Battle of Florida here. This series is going to be super, super tightly contested. Both teams are so elite. And if I'm being honest, with the way I see the Eastern Conference shaking out, I think the winner of this series will go to the Stanley Cup final. I think these two are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they happen to match up in the first round, similar to Dallas and Colorado. I honestly, wholeheartedly believe in both sides that the two teams that come out of those series could be just going all the way to the final and winning the cup. Like, those are arguably the 4 best teams in the playoffs, and they all match up in the first round. So crazy series here. It's crazy that we have to make one of these teams or 2 of these teams first round exits. For me, I'm gonna bet on the defending champions, and I'm going to take the Panthers in 7. They're getting healthy. They're going to have Ekblad back for Game 3. Kachuk should be back Game 1. Guys like Reinhart and Barkov and Bennett are coming back to full health. They got Marchand in the lineup. So I do think Florida's going to take it. But, again, another series where you could flip me very easily on Tampa winning this series in 7. The big thing that I think they have is their top-end stars have performed a little better this year. You know, they have Kucherov, Vasilevsky's playing really well, and Jake Gensel's been a great fit there too. So you could easily sway me on Tampa, but Florida has been pretty good against Tampa in the playoffs. They beat them pretty badly last year. I'm going to bet on the Panthers, the defending champions, for a reason. They've been cold going into the playoffs for sure. It's not looked good. It's looked a little shaky, but I think they'll bounce back. They're a great playoff performing team. They pick it up come playoff time. They're built for these moments, so I'm going to take Panthers in 7. Moving on to what I like to call the vibes matchup of the playoffs, the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. 2 teams just running on straight vibes. You got the Habs going on this run to end the season to make the playoffs, to steal that last wildcard spot in what was supposed to be a rebuilding year. They got Demidov coming up out of nowhere, shockingly playing this season. Nobody thought he was going to play nobody thought he was going to play next season. He's playing this season here, so everyone's super excited with that. Lane Hutson's there. They got great vibes going on over in Montreal. The Bell Center's going to be bumping. And you got the Capitals. They're second place in the league. They've been one of the top teams all year, and they've been, riding the high of the Ovi goal chase. They finally broke it. Ovi broke the record. They've been a little shaky since he broke the record. The adrenaline may have worn them down a little bit, but regardless, they are still a really good team. The series is interesting. Definitely an upset candidate. I could very well see Montreal coming in and putting up a good fight, but I do have Washington winning in 6 games. I think the Habs will put up a good fight. I think it could end up being a 2-2 series after they come back from Montreal, because the Bell Center is going to be a tough place to play in for anyone. So I really do think the Habs can take control of that home ice advantage in this series. But in the end of the day, the Capitals are the favorites for a reason. They are a really good hockey team. They're really well built top to bottom. They don't have Ovi obviously is the name, but Ovi's not playing at Ovi level. Like, he's still scoring goals, but he's not the same Ovi at past. He's not this superstar top 10 player in the league. They don't really have anyone like that, but they're just so deep and so, they can beat you in so many different ways. I think they're going to end up winning this series. A big question mark for them, though, will be the health and status of Alexei Protas and, more importantly, Logan Thompson. If Thompson doesn't play, honestly, Montreal might take this in 6 themselves. But I think he's expected to be back at some point during this series, and I think Washington's got enough power to be able to come back from a deficit if they fall down early with Thompson out. But I think they'll end up taking this series in 6. And last and probably least in the first round, we've got the Carolina Hurricanes against the New Jersey Devils. I've got the Canes winning this one in 5. I just don't see a whole lot of competition for Jersey. I think the big issue is they lost Jack Hughes. And without Jack Hughes, their offense kind of falls flat in its face, and they lose a lot of their oomph. They're a much better team than they were last year for sure, but overall, when you lose your best player, A lot of they have Siegenthaler's also out for them right now. That could be a tough loss if he misses some serious time. They're really solid. They are. They're well built. They got a solid decor. They just got Dougie Hamilton back, but I just really think without Jack Hughes, it's not enough. The team is just not good enough at all to make a run. So I got the Canes in 5. The Canes have been there. They've done this. I don't know if they're gonna go. I don't think this is the year the Canes really finally get over the hump in the second and third round, but they are a better team, and they've been playing pretty well. The goaltending is a question mark for Carolina, as it has been in past years, but they've got a real scoring punch this year with Seth Jarvis and the way he's been playing, which is something they've lacked in previous years. So I like the Canes. I have them winning this in 5, mainly just because I don't think the Devils have the firepower without Jack Hughes. Back over to the Western Conference, we'll go to the second round with Winnipeg and Colorado. A rematch of last year's first round, and I've got the result being the same here. I've got the Avalanche winning this one. I'd say the series probably goes 6 games. I think Hellebuck, the Avalanche do have the recipe for beating Hellebuck, and the recipe is simple: bombard them with elite players shooting the puck at an elite level. That's what the Avs do, and they're a super talented offensive team. And I think if they can get through Dallas, there's not many teams that can compete with them in the Western Conference with their depth and their high-end talent and their decor and their goaltending. They're really a well-constructed team with very few holes, and I just don't see a world where the Jets can overpower that. Especially by this time, the Jets should be healthy, but they do have injuries sort of piling up late in the season, which is unfortunate for them. But I just think that they're built on defense, and sometimes the best defense is a good offense, and the Avs have a great offense and a great defense. So it's similar to the Kings and Oilers, where the Jets are built to defend and to shut you down and keep pucks to the outside, give Hellebuck an easy time, and Hellebuck's amazing. But they just don't have offensive firepower. Like they have some great players. Kyle Connor's amazing, so is Mark Scheifele, some really good players up there. But it's not going to compete with the likes of Nathan McKinnon and the way Arturi Lekkonen's been playing. And, if Gabe Landeskog comes back, and Valerie Nichushkin, Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, Ross Colton plays really well, Jonathan Drouin has played really well since coming over to Colorado. So many guys on that team are so good. And that's not even mentioning, Kel McCarr is a pretty good hockey player too. So I just think you have a Hart candidate up front. You got probably the Norris winner on the back end. The Avs are going to be a tough team to beat. Next up, Vegas, Edmonton. This is another tough one. I kind of go back and forth a little bit, because I think if the Oilers get going out of the first round, they could be tough to stop. It could be just kind of one of those things, you get them rolling, and it just keeps on rolling, and no one can stop them. But Vegas is so well built. I got Vegas winning this one in 6. I think they're similar to the Kings, They have good goaltending, but not great goaltending. They have a great decor and a great system, but Vegas' decor is even better, and Vegas has more scoring punch with the likes of Jack Eichel leading the charge. Pavel Dorofeyev is a 35-goal scorer this year, and plenty of other players in the top of that lineup. I think they can match the Oilers' scoring punch, especially if Eichel misses extended time, because there's no real timetable. We know he's out for round 1, possibly round 2. If there's no Eichel against Vegas, you really don't have a chance. Like I said, I think the one team that Edmonton can beat without Eichel is the Kings. I don't think they can do it against Vegas. So I got Vegas winning it in 6. It's unfortunate, but I just don't think this is the year for the Oilers. Too many things have gone wrong for them, and they got to make a bit of not an overhaul, but really shake things up this offseason. Let the contracts expire and bring in some new blood. Get back to what you were building in the 23-24 season. I think they really kind of messed it up this offseason, losing the likes of Holloway and Broberg and McLeod and Fogle. Some of those guys you had to move, but I think they need a bit of a roster shakeup to kind of give some more firepower to their lineup next year. Back to the Eastern Conference, we've got Ottawa and Florida, and the Battle of the Tkachuk brothers. This would be another amazing series. I would love to watch this one. I'm going to go Florida. I'm going to have them winning this one in 6. I think Ottawa, riding a hot hand, could be a dangerous team for sure. But Florida's got that pedigree. They've got that experience. They've run into hot teams before and they shut them down, like the Oilers last year. I do think the Panthers are just a better hockey team all around, top to bottom. And they can match the physical, gritty playing style that Ottawa likes to play with their own Tkachuk brother. And they've got, Brad Marchand now, Sam Bennett. They can really play that style so well. They've an elite decor. If Bob gets hot, he's hot. And I think it's going to be tough to beat for Ottawa. I just don't think they're up to that challenge just yet, but this would be a real successful season in their books if they make it to the second round. So Panthers in 6, be a fun series, but I just don't see Ottawa putting up a ton of a fight. Next up, we go to Washington and Carolina, a series that is going to be really close. I don't see either of these teams though as like true contenders in my eyes. Washington had a great regular season, but the lack of that true star power is something that holds them back in my eyes. I'm going to go Carolina in 7. Like I said, I don't see either of these teams as like crazy contenders. The Canes have been through turmoil with the Rantanen pickup and then the Rantanen loss and, kind of trying to figure things out. The Canes are going to continue to be good. They're calling up prospects like nobody's business. Alexander Nikishin is going to be playing for them, and I think Nikishin is such a stud. I'm super, super stoked to watch him play. And, Bradley Nadeau's been coming up. Jackson Blake's played well. There's Logan Stanko when they picked up now. Scott Morrow's played well. They've got a lot of prospects coming through the system. They're going to keep them competitive for a long time, but they still need that extra punch at the top of their lineup to go on a deep run. But I do think they have enough at the top of their lineup with the likes of Aho and Jarvis to beat the Capitals in 7 games and move on to the Eastern Conference Final. Back to the West side, we got Colorado and Vegas. This is going to be a great series. 2 really deep, really well-matched teams that have, great players up and down their lineup with no real holes. But I'm going to take the Colorado Avalanche in 7 games here. I think it falls on the leanings power, the things that all these cup-winning teams have is the star power. And I think Colorado's star power outweighs Vegas' star power. Colorado's star power probably outweighs everyone in the leagues besides the Oilers. And the Avs have the depth to beat the Oilers. And and then that's the closest matchup. The Avs have such elite top-end talent, and getting players back they've been all in this offseason. They traded away Mikko Rantanen, and they've been just overhauling the roster. They picked up Mackenzie Blackwood, they picked up Scott Wedgwood. Marty Necas has been better than Rantanen since coming over. He's been having a career season. He fits in so well with their run and gun offense. Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, so many big additions. Ryan Lindgren's a solid pickup on the back end. So they're a great team, super deep, no holes, and have the top end talent. Again, like I said in the last round, they get hot. Going to be tough to stop, so I got Colorado in 7 over the Vegas Golden Knights. And in the Eastern Conference, Panthers-Canes, another rematch from a couple years back. I believe this was the rematch from when the Panthers lost to Vegas in the Cup final, if I'm not mistaken. And I've got the Panthers winning this one again, also in 5 games, similar to that year. I just don't think Carolina's up to the task. This was supposed to be a bit of a retooling year. Their expectations were pretty low heading into the season because of the loss of Jake Gensel and no real major additions. Lots of turnover in their organization and within their roster. So people thought this would be more of a retooling year, but overall they've surpassed expectations, and going to the conference final would be as typical for the Canes, but considering the way the season started, considering the way the expectations they went into this season with, this would definitely be a win for them. But the Panthers are all around an amazing hockey team. I've got them winning in 5. Defending champs for a reason. And I think the biggest question mark is Bob hasn't been as good this year. But if Bob is amazing, if we're getting to the conference final, Bob has to be playing well, which means I don't see the Canes being able to match that. And Kochetkov and Anderson have been a little shaky in the back end for the Canes. So despite their amazing defensive system, I think the Panthers break through, winning it in 5, giving us a Stanley Cup final matchup of the Colorado Avalanche against the Florida Panthers. This would be one hell of a series to watch. This would be such an exciting Cup final. 2 teams who have been there and done that in recent years. Panthers looking to repeat. Colorado looking to get back to the top with Gabe Landeskog back in their lineup too. I'm going with the Colorado Avalanche, getting their second Stanley Cup with McKinnon and company here, winning the series in 6 games over the Panthers. I don't see them closing out in 7. I'm going to go with 6. Colorado over the Panthers. This would be really one hell of a series. But as I mentioned before, I just think the firepower that the Avs have is too much for teams to match. The interesting matchup in this series would be Barkov and McKinnon. We don't see that as much because they don't play each other as much. We know how Barkov plays Matthews. We know how Barkov plays Kucherov. We know how Barkov plays Aho. We know how he shuts down all these elite Eastern Conference guys. We know how he played McDavid last year. I'd really be curious to see how the Panthers match up with the likes of like Barkov and Forsling against the McKinnon line, and how that matchup would work. I do think they'd be able to keep him in check, all things considered. I think they would be able to really keep McKinnon in check, but the Avs have the depth and the production they can get from the back end with Cale Makar, who would be a lot tougher for Barkov to match up with due to the minutes he plays. And Makar can create tons of offense on his own, especially with the likes of, that second line, Drouin, Nelson, and Shushkin, some great offensive threats there that Makar can feed without Barkov on the ice. So I think at the end of the day, the depth that the Avs possess up and down their lineup would give them a bit of an advantage and allow them to get around the Barkov shutdown line that the Panthers have won so many series with. You look at some of the teams they've beat in the past, and what they've really lacked is that depth down the lineup to try and get around it. The Oilers, until they finally broke through the dam, they could get secondary scoring because McDavid wasn't scoring, and so nobody was scoring. The Avs can do it. The Avs are the team that can get around that. The Avs are the team that have the depth to do it. So I've got the Colorado Avalanche winning this 2025 Stanley Cup. That's my bracket. Be sure to leave down your thoughts down below. Check out other videos. Put comments in what your brackets are, who you have winning the cup. Well, we can have some debates going in the comments. We've got a couple more videos coming out in the next few days. I'm working on a NHL mock draft after the draft order is finalized tonight, or as I'm recording this tonight. It should be out after all the final games are done. But yeah, I've got that coming up soon. I'm working on ranking some prospect pools for the NHL, and with the NFL draft coming up, I'm going to have an NFL mock draft coming out the day before the draft as well. So tons of content coming in. So be sure to subscribe to see some more, and I will see you in the next one.